We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hassani, and it's good to have you with us here this morning. Danielle is away, but she sends her best regards. It's just me today. Hopefully you don't mind. Hopefully you don't feel like you're getting beat. But I'll do the best I can to give you what you need. Hey, wherever you are tuning in from, we want to hear from you, wherever it may be around the world. We want to know that you're here. And we just want to let you know that we appreciate you. You know, the sacrifice, the dedication, the tenacity, the stick-to-itivism, the willingness to join us every single morning to get what it is that you need. We do not take that lightly. And that's why we try to do our best to give you a quality show with information that really can make a difference in your life. Listen, guys, before we get started, of course, as you know, we want you to share, like, subscribe. If you're watching us through YouTube, it's okay. Just click that subscribe button. If you're watching us on Facebook, just click the notification so that you get to find out when we are going to be available. And when we go live, boom, you get a notification, you join the conversation, and that's how we do what we do. Listen, before we get started, you know the Audacity of Marriage retreat, it's coming up. It's in July. You do not want to miss it. People have been registering from all over the country. We're excited about it. It's the 15th through the 17th. Let's just quickly experience what you may possibly begin to experience if you show up here in Atlanta. Be right back. That's right, $297. That's all it is per couple. I'm telling you, you can't beat that. You can't beat that. All you need to do is register today and then get your hotel room. We have discount rates, unbelievable rates at a beautiful hotel, beautiful destination. You want to be able to say, I made it this year. We just had one in April. We have one again in July. And so if you want to take your relationship to the next level, if you want to shift things, if you want to make things better, then join us as we bring couples from all over our community. Because there's a bonding that takes place in that experience. And we would love to have you with us, guys. Listen, we're going to jump into today's topic. We're talking about the series. Now, you know, we've been in the series. Last week, it was Why I Cheated. And hopefully you were able to get something out of that. And this week, we're on Why I Stayed. This is a 4-part series. This is part 2. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this conversation today. And as we were preparing for it, coming across, you know, reasons that people have had for staying in their relationship. We said this yesterday, that a lot of times before you're in a committed relationship, you would say to yourself, if this ever happens to me, I'm not going to stay. Or advice that you would give someone else who's in the situation, girl, you need to leave. Man, what you doing? Why don't you just leave? But the reality is when you are in the situation yourself, there's a whole lot more to consider. Keep in mind, think about renting a house versus owning a house. If I'm renting, there's a certain level of commitment that I have to that property. I could break the lease, I can move, right? But if I own that house, there's a whole lot more involved. So I got to really consider things to see if this is the decision I really want to make. I use that and juxtapose it to when you're in a non-married relationship versus a married relationship. Now, we work with all couples. And if you've been further into the commitment, but yet not married, maybe over the course of years, you've developed a whole lot of relationship, a whole lot of love. There's things that are attaching and binding you together. So much like a married couple, there's a lot to consider. If it's earlier in the relationship and you're just in the dating phase, you have different options, right? You have different things to consider. But the majority of the people who are part of our community have been in a committed relationship for a period of time. And so it's not that easy to just make a decision. It takes a whole lot of consideration. It takes a whole lot of counsel. It takes a whole lot of wisdom and insight and prayer to get you to a place where you finally know that you know that you know that you know. There's nothing worse than being in a relationship and still being non-committal. A month in, a year in, 10 years in, you're still, well, I'm not sure if I'm after 10, you're not sure if you're staying. You've been there for 10 years. So if you're going to be there, let's figure out how to make this thing work. So I want to share with you a couple of quotes that I got from individuals that I thought were quite interesting. We want to take the time to unpack it. Number one, this is Scott. He's 45 years old from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He says, we both could recognize our own role in it. That's in the affair. And that the cheating itself was not based on spite or anger, but because she was missing something she needed that I hadn't been giving her. For her part, she was afraid of confronting me about it. So here we see, which is very common, communication was a breakdown in their relationship. It kept her from sharing what was really on her heart and mind. And because we're not having intimate conversations with each other, because maybe we don't feel as if we're in a safe environment, we rather have internal conversations with ourselves and we shut down. Those internal conversations, we begin to compartmentalize, rationalize, justify why we feel the way we feel. And then we begin to emotionally connect with someone else and have intimate conversations with them. And that's how the slippery slope begins. So the failure to effectively communicate allowed issues to go unresolved. Now, if I don't know what the issue is because you don't bring it to my attention, I possibly cannot meet it because I can't read your mind. I don't know what's going on the inside of you. And so sometimes there are people who are in relationships who smile on the outside, but they're crying and frowning on the inside. And some reason their head bone or their mind bone is not connected to their mouth bone, and they're not articulating what's going on in their mind and what's going on in their heart, and it creates an emotional disconnect, and that increases the probability of an affair. Now, here in this quote, he does take ownership. He says, you know what, this affair that happened, we both realized that we played a part in it. I thought that was very mature because typically in relationships, when an affair occurs, listen, the person who was cheated on, they are not responsible for the partner's decision. The decision was theirs and theirs alone. They dealt with that decision in a particular way that was not effective for a long-lasting, mutually beneficial relationship. So they stepped outside of reasoning and what was wise and made a decision that compromised the integrity of the relationship. But there are these, what we call marital patterns that exist that both partners are involved with that can increase the vulnerability in a relationship for someone to make a bad decision. And so that's what we saw in that particular quote. Let's go to the next one. Andre, 33 from Los Angeles, California, says, after she cheated, we agreed that we'd each do things differently. And we were each getting a clean slate. It was as simple as that. We each thought that the relationship was worth saving, and there was no way to save it without trusting the other person would do their best. So here we see both of them are making a commitment to do something different. We know that when an affair occurs, oftentimes it shines a light on the relationship. We begin to, with a microscope, take a look at the foundation of the relationship, and it exposes what was wrong all along. And for whatever reason, we didn't address it. For whatever reason, we just dealt with it. Think about the dashboard in your car. You know that light's on. That red light's on. And you say, well, you know what? I can make it from point A to point B. It's fine. Yeah, I'll deal with it later. Oh, it's not that big a deal. My pockets are kind of light right now. My schedule's kind of busy right now. I just don't have the time to deal with it. And because we don't deal with it, things get progressively worse. And a simple fix now becomes a major issue because too much time passed and the issue got progressively worse. And so here we see it exposed what was going on in the relationship. And they realized that they had to do something different. And that's the key. Couples Academy is not interested in keeping you married simply to keep you doing what you've always done, because doing more of the same will simply get you more of the same. We're not interested in you remaining married and miserable. We're not interested in you remaining married and emotionally disconnected. We're not interested in you remaining married and continuing to struggle with trust and forgiveness. We want something new for your relationship. We want something different for your relationship, and you should want that as well. And if you're not willing to fight and do whatever is not fight with in a negative way, but fight with in a positive way to create a new reality in that relationship. And when you do that, all of a sudden things begin to turn around. Guys, we're talking about why we stay. There's some great reasons. We're going to cover some more when we get right back. Stay right there. Couples Academy is expanding its team to meet the growing demand of people in need of help around the world. So if you're a trained, licensed, or certified expert in marriage enrichment, infidelity recovery, sex therapy, life coaching, cognitive behavioral therapy, divorce mediation, financial coaching, or family therapy, contact us today. Hey guys, we're back. We're talking about why I stayed. Listen, let me just tell you a quick story. We get calls all day, all night. We serve clients all over the world. Sometimes we get emergency calls 2-3 o'clock in the morning, or when I wake up, I see that there's a string of texts in my phone, and a particular couple reached out to me, or a spouse reached out to me to tell me about some of the hardships that they're going through. And we've done some work in the past. Let me just speak to the power of consistency. To say that I've done that, to say that I already know that, is not good enough. It's not about what you have done. It's not about what you know. It's about what you do. And when you're doing the right thing consistently, you begin to see results in your relationship. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, where's my brain at? It came in and it went out, but it talks about the importance of constantly doing something consistently enough, for in due season. There it is. In due season, you will reap if you faint not. Don't be weary in well-doing. Don't get tired of doing the right thing. You're trying to see results, but you're not seeing it fast enough, quick enough. And so you throw in the towel, you give up, you cave in and quit on your effort because you say it's not producing anything. But it's the consistency. It's constantly sowing seed and sowing seed and sowing seed. And there's a season when you sow, and then there's the season of harvest, right? And when harvest time comes, you got to be quick to grab that sickle and grab that crop, because harvest doesn't last a long time. But the point is, you have to be consistent in your effort. And if the only time we hear from you is once every few months, well, what would make you think that you have what it takes to sustain throughout that period of time if you're not in a good, healthy space? And so that's why sometimes you got to soak and saturate yourself in a system, in a process, in wise counsel to get what you want. And then after you've gone through a process of deep dive, intensive work, then you want consistent regularity to make sure that things are remaining in check. And that's why there's power in community. There's power in an accountability system. There's power in checks and balances to make sure that you stay on the right path. The only time that you call me, if it's crisis, now I have to turn into a magician and perform a magic trick. And that's unfair. Think about it. When was the last time that you went to the hospital or the doctor? When you were hurt, when you broke something, when you were in deep pain, maybe you had the flu. Well, preventative medicine says don't wait till you get in a crisis, but make sure that you're staying on the right path. Likewise, I would say to you as couples, don't just go to marriage counseling when there is a crisis. Okay, if there is a crisis, of course, go. But even when things are going well, do your regular check-ins to make sure that you're remaining on the right path. And so to all of those that have been with us, we would love to see you again. For those who are still vacillating, do I do this? Do I take the plunge? Take the plunge. We would love to work with you. Let me just go to some of the comments here. Jody, good morning. Looking forward to our couples 3-day intensive session. God bless you and your work. Just had a conversation with them just a day ago, and they are deciding to take the plunge and do what is transformational for their relationship. And they'll be coming down to the retreat center here in Atlanta. And we look forward to having them. Ralph, good morning. Ladidra, good morning. Gorgeous Wells, good to see you. Ronald Clark, good to see you. LaCheryl, good to see you this morning. Raheem, of course. Torre, good to see you, brother. Lorraine and Raya. When is something going to happen in South Australia? I don't know what that means. I don't know what you mean. So you got to clarify so that I can specifically answer that question. Lorraine says, as transparent as and remorseful as my husband is, I'm still struggling with his infidelity. Why? Great question, Lorraine. So in essence, what you're saying is my husband is showing up the right way. He's doing all the things that he needs to do. Why do I still have a struggle? It's critically important that you realize that there are two different journeys. I would say it like this. Think about a 3-lane highway. There's 3 lanes. You both as a couple are in that middle lane. That is your relational story. But then there's a lane on the left and a lane on the right. That is your individual lane. You're in one lane, your partner's in another. And so while you're working on the marriage to get it where it needs to be, the marital recovery, there's also the individual recovery process. Now, if the spouse, the offender, is on their path to recovery and they're doing everything they need to do, they're course correcting, they're making changes, they're showing up the right way, they're consistent in their effort, they're dotting every I, they're crossing every T, they are who they should have been all along. Well, awesome. But that is not necessarily an indication that all is well, because you as the betrayed partner also have your journey. And so the success of your marriage is predicated upon the individual journeys that you both take. So if you're still struggling with triggers, if you're still struggling to believe, if you're still struggling with forgiveness, if you're still confused and in doubt about the details of the affair, that means that you have to go through a process so that you have a little bit more clarity, a little bit more closure, which ultimately leads to your healing so that you can begin to move forward. When those things are done, now you're getting what you're needing. And so here's the deal. Work has to be done. Heavy lifting has to be done. And your spouse can't do your work for you. And you can't do your spouse's work for him. You both have your individual journey. So while you're responsible for your own healing, your partner is also there to accommodate and assist in that healing process. And so one of the things that you have to do is really look within yourself and ask yourself, what am I really struggling with? We've noticed that oftentimes now the true fight is not necessarily with the spouse, but the true fight is within yourself. You know, it was it was the pastor, Joyce Myers, who wrote the book, The Battlefield of the Mind. And our biggest battle, our biggest struggle oftentimes is right here in our mind. And we're replaying and revisiting, right, and reimagining, and we're obsessed with what has occurred. Now we're in the present, but we're still living in the past. We time travel all the time. And because we travel back into our past and we relive that painful experience, we're living it today as if it just happened. So the same feelings we had then, we now have today. And then we travel into our future. But what do we bring into our future? Anxiety, fear, because we believe what happened in our past will play itself out in our future. And we rob ourselves of our present moment. In our Moving Forward program last night, we were talking to the couples and we were saying basically that, listen, folks, the past no longer exists. It really doesn't. The future, you never, ever really experience the future, because the moment you step into tomorrow, it becomes what? Today. So all you have is right now. So how are you managing your thoughts? How are you controlling your emotions? How are you deciding to stay present? Staying present will allow you to heal. And when you do that, because the question is, how is your spouse presently showing up? How is your spouse presently communicating? How is your spouse presently engaging with you? If you remain in the present, that's when true healing and transformation comes. As we say, the key to your marital restoration is your personal transformation. So both of you have a role to play in that process. And when you do, all becomes well. Now, these are some of the reasons why people stay. We have a few more, guys. We're about to go to a quick commercial break. Be right back. Hey guys, you're tuning into the Couples Academy show. And if you just tuned in at the beginning of the show, we talked about the Audacity of Marriage retreat, July 15th through the 17th, not too late to register. Now, you know, if you're a member of the Moving Forward program, it's already included in your membership. All you need to do is show up. But if you're not, it's just $297. What an incredible price to invest in your marriage. You got to put your money where your marriage is if you want to see results. And if you're saying, well, man, for free, how can I get involved? Well, you need to join the Moving Forward program. It'll be a blessing to you. Renee says, amen. When you consistently plant good seed, you will eventually see good fruit. That's absolutely right. And that speaks to the power of consistency. Rick Bennett said, I cheated many times in our 35-year marriage. This is the first time that I've actually started counseling, doing the self-search to find my issues. My beautiful wife is affording me this progression. Wow, that's commitment. I would love to hear from your wife. You talk about 35 years and have cheated several times. Yet now, after 35 years, you're beginning the healing process. I would love to hear from her as to why she stayed. I'm sure many people would want to know that. Listen, guys, I hope you're getting something out of today. I'm going to go to a couple more quotes that I came across. This says, we made some agreements about more communication and going to parties together more often. After the third time she cheated, we added rules about drinking. We had been together for about 3 years at this point, and we were going through issues. Her drinking was part of it, and these rules seemed like it could make a difference. That's from Paul, 32 from Chicago, Illinois. Now, interesting. Here we see the introduction of alcohol being a contributing factor to the affair. I think it was Jamie Foxx who had that song, Blame It on the Alcohol. And we know when working with many of our clients that alcohol is an issue. it can heighten the emotional intensity and can lead to anger. It can cause disconnection. If you're an individual who actually struggles and is addicted to alcohol, it can lead to isolation within the relationship. It can cause you not to think in your right mind and can then begin to justify your decisions to engage in an inappropriate affair. And think about it. If it is an addiction for you, well, guess what? If a person has an addiction in one space, they may have an addictive personality, which may lead them to be addicted to something else. And as we talk about addiction, and infidelity, oftentimes most people just focus on the sex addiction, the porn addiction. And while that is a reality, some people are addicted to attention. Some people are addicted to new. Some people are addicted to the in love feeling. Some people are addicted to validation, the need to be validated. And if they no longer find that in their relationship, they will begin to justify venturing out and getting that validation from somewhere else. But what was powerful about what was said was they established rules. Rules? That doesn't sound sexy. That doesn't sound fun. Well, it is not, folks, but it's the very thing that may protect and save you. We talk about this all the time, how you have to establish government in your home because governments are comprised of laws. Laws are there for the safety and protection of its citizens. And if you have no laws, you have lawlessness. And if you have lawlessness, you have anarchy. And once you have anarchy, that means that anything goes. So to establish laws, rules, parameters, a relational code of ethics. I say this all the time. You have a job. I don't care if you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, if you're a mechanic, if you work in a fast food restaurant as a server, or it doesn't matter. You work according to a code. There is a code of conduct. If you break that code of conduct, you will get a warning. You break it again, then there's going to be a consequence. It can ultimately lead to the ending or the termination of your job, right? Likewise, in relationships, there's got to be a relational code of conduct. Right? A shared value system. Once you have that in place, then there's security that's now built into the relationship. Because guess what? When you leave, you're taking the code that we've established with you. So I can trust you out of my sight because I trust the code. I trust the moral compass. I trust the integrity that now you are soaked and saturated in based upon this code. So establishing rules allows someone to believe that, hey, I can stay and things can begin to work itself out. Last point. Sarah, 46 from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, says people say sometimes an affair makes their marriage stronger. And I think that's the case for us. We check in on each other more. We make time for each other now. We go away together a couple times a year alone. We grocery shop together every Sunday. It sounds corny, but it makes a difference. We're like a team now, whereas before we were just two people who happened to live together. I think that is extremely powerful because many people think, once an affair happens, the relationship is ruined and wrecked for life. That is not true, folks. You can actually have a better relationship after the affair than what you had before, because prior to, maybe for whatever reason, you were engaging in issue avoidance. You were turning a blind eye. You just didn't want to deal with it. But now the affair forces all of the issues in the relationship to come to the surface, and then you are required to deal with it. And if you are working with us, we're going to focus on helping to build a healthy foundation for a long-lasting, mutually beneficial relationship. And when you do that, you certainly can have a better relationship, better connection, better communication, better intimacy, better interaction, a better reality, a better life, because you were willing to do the work. So the affair doesn't make the relationship better, but it's the recovery process that you go through once an affair that has occurred. That is what makes the relationship better. And so I want to give you all hope and encouragement today that if you're in a situation and you're beginning to doubt whether things will ever turn around, all you have to do is just listen to the quotes. All you have to do is find other couples who have been where you currently are and see how they made it out. And if they can make it out, and overcome. Certainly you can as well. We've dedicated our entire life to really giving couples what they need to take their relationship to the next level. So if you're ready to get started, go to the Audacity of Marriage live retreat, sign up for a 3-day private marriage intensive. Do what you need to do. Do virtual weekly sessions, whatever you can do based upon where you're at. When you make that commitment, trust and believe, you will see results and transformation in your life and in your relationship. Guys, I hope that you got something out of today. You're watching the Couples Academy show. Tune in tomorrow for part 3 as we talk about why I stayed. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.